Mhm. As you all are opening your eyes, try to remember a teacher who has helped you grow the most and who has sort of helped you, encouraged you to get out of your comfort zone as much as you can, and have said exactly the words that you needed to hear exactly at that time. And that's what Vivekji has been for me and for so many seekers in our community. So past almost 20 years or so, Vivekji is teaching us tirelessly, unconditionally, the science of um, happiness or joy to all different types of seekers, like the young ones and the old ones. And I'm looking here, most of us know him quite a lot. And I'm sharing a little bit more for people who are new to the community. Uh, and so Google him up and listen to any amazing speech or topic that fancies you and listen to him speak. Uh, that will speak for itself in its own. Vivekji has grown up in Niagara Falls, Canada. Right now, he stays there with his two children and partner, his family. And before all that, he went to really fancy fun schools and studied really great deal things, ran a business. And in between, he did a Vedanta course for 2 years, learned Sanskrit, I believe. Yeah. And sort of changed his lifestyle in full way. And what he has been for me past year through this enhanced Seva training is someone who would pour his heart out in all authentic way possible to help our love for learning about ourselves. And that's such a phenomenal opportunity that we have through this program the upcoming year, like along with Sumanji and um, Shankarji, even Vinay as a facilitator. All of them have crazy packed schedules, and still they're prioritizing our learning through this opportunity. So I really hope that we don't waste this opportunity and really learn from them throughout the process. So Vivekji, help us learn more.
Hari Om, and good evening from Niagara Falls. Thank you to our team, to Zui, and really all of you. Right before joining you, I was part of a caregiving culture meeting. Our caregiving culture team wants to meet over the summer, and I told them after mid May, people are in summer mode. It doesn't matter what kind of program you create, they're most likely not going to participate. But seeing so many of you who are keen, who are inspired, it is heartwarming. It is heart melting. So happy to see all of you, happy to be with all of you. I'm sharing in advance before I get into the technical sharing. What this workshop is about, this open house is about one of the best facets of service or this community or even experience that I've ever been part of. I've been teaching full time for almost 17 years now. And what opportunity you all have, what we did together over the past year, is one of the best, I don't know what to describe this, offerings that I've been part of over the past 17 years. So, with that prelude, I'm sharing some more technical thoughts now. A privilege is only a privilege if you share this. A privilege is only a privilege if you share this. If you don't share it, that means you don't know that you have this privilege. Now, for the majority of us, a part of our privilege is being associated, being connected to Sanatana Dharma. In English, that means infinite nature. Making this more relative, it is our privilege to be associated, to be connected to self-development. That you have a thought to be a better person. That you have a thought that vices are harmful. Us being associated and connected to Sanatana Dharma, self-development, we sometimes have this tendency to feel we know Sanatana Dharma and self-development, and so I'll just share it. I'll share it on Sunday mornings, or I'll share it on Wednesday evenings, and that's enough. But where we fail to see the full picture is that Sanatana Dharma, self-development, is a subjective science. And one gauge, one unique aspect of a subjective science is that it must always grow. Many facets of creation, if it keeps growing, that's unhealthy. In a radical example, cancer is like that. In a subjective science, there has to be constant growth. And so what I mean by this more specifically is that I have to know more about infinite nature day after day, year after year. For those who have more of an emotional bent, love is only love if it keeps growing. Think of the love you have for your parent, your partner, your cousin, whoever it may be. That is only love if it keeps growing. With this vision, we have come up with our Seeker to Facilitator program. Now our team is panicking right now because this year it's enhanced Seva training. I know what I'm saying right now. We have come up with our Seeker to Facilitator program. In such a phrase, our focus tends to be on facilitator. A facilitator is someone who helps others. But I want to caution you. Our Seeker to Facilitator program's reference was not others, but oneself. Even though the word facilitator is used, the reference is still oneself. Why? This is a subjective science. Now, the practicality of this, if you lead yourself, others will follow. I'm sure you've all been in a setting where there's a personality who is more confident than the rest. Suppose you're not that personality in this example I'm giving. That person over there is more confident. Don't you find inevitably that you start to follow that confident person? You do. That person is leading themselves, so inevitably you are following them. So I want us to be clear about this. Our Seeker to Facilitator program was not about facilitating for others, but rather facilitating one's growth more. Now I zoom into our upcoming program, and maybe the best word is our upcoming training. In Bhagavad Gita's chapter 3, Shri Krishna zooms into selflessness. In chapter 4, he magnifies this even more. In 5, even more. Having facilitated for oneself, then naturally one has this feeling that I should facilitate for others also. And that is why this training is now being labeled as, is being designed as, enhanced Seva training. Everyone here serves in their own way. I know that. Even those I don't know well, I still can sense that. You are serving. But this serving has to grow. I have to know more. I have to love more. So this has to grow. That means I have to grow more. And this upcoming training is the more you grow, the more you'll be able to help others grow. It is not Seva training, it is enhanced Seva training. What this upcoming training will really tune us into is how do we facilitate, how do we help Generation Z, or sorry, we have our Americans, Generation Z grow? We will grow. How do we help Generation Z grow? The little research I have done on generations, Generation Z is those who are born between 1995 and 2009. Now, if you think about some of the classes that you're involved in, there's a lot of young seekers in this age range. They're in college, they're in high school, and so on. But not just Generation Z, Generation A also, A or Alpha. Those are those born in 2010 to present. People like my own children who were born in 2017 and 2019. Enhanced Seva training will help us to grow and help us to help them grow. And I come back to all of you are large-hearted for being here, and that's why you have this propensity to want to help others grow. I am part of Generation Y. Generation Y was from 1980 to 1994. And my wife likes to tease me that really I shouldn't be Generation Y. I should be the one before that. I think it's Generation X. But factually, scientifically, I am part of Generation Y. And I have noticed there's such a difference between Generation Y and Z. Z and A. And knowing there's such a difference, one has to adapt. I engage in this full time and still I find facilitating for high school students, facilitating for middle school students, it is not simple. It's not that I know one grade 8, so I know all grade 8s. There's a difference, and so one has to adapt. What is perhaps the most precious aspect of this training is how professional this is. Now I'm going to ask all those who are part of the Seeker to Facilitator program, can you put your hand up? Everyone sees everyone's hands up. Now, if you were to ask them, and you will have an opportunity to ask them, how much did you pay for your training? They paid $0 for their training. And I share this because whenever we get that which is professional, we pay a lot for it. And if we don't pay a lot for it, we don't think it's professional. But this upcoming training is professional because it is designed by professional educators. You're going to meet our team very soon, our team that's made up of Anvita and Annapurna, that is made up of Vidya and Vignesh, that is made up of Vinay. This team is a team of professional educators, and they've come up with a professional program. In this program, and I apologize, I missed the J. I had the A's and I had the V's. The J was missed. See, I'm also in summer mode. The J is, or Generation Z, is Zooey. They've come up with a professional program in which the curriculum and the related application is all professionally thought out, professionally set out for all of us. Why? because that's what's required to work with Generation A, Generation Z. Why? We want to help them grow. Why? Because we want to grow. Why? Because that's the nature of Sanatana Dharma. I started off by sharing how happy I am to be with all of you. I think when I started, there was less than 50. Now there's almost 75 seekers who are joining us. I'm happy to be with all of you. And I really hope after this open house that you will apply for our program. Already, I think there's 20 applications that have come through. Our limit is going to be 54. We want this to be a personal training. So as you go through this open house, think lots, ask lots of questions, and I hope this will translate into you applying for our training. I'm going to pause here, and I'm now going to introduce, I've listed out our team's name, again, Anvita and Annapurna, Zui, Vidya and Vignesh. On behalf of all of them, Vinay, who's also part of our team, will be sharing. I've known Vinay for decades now. And I've seen Vinay grow so much in a sacred way, and I'm going to say secular, but not in a harsh way. In a secular way, in the sense that he's gone through college, he's gone through a master's program, he's in a PhD program. I've seen him look after his parents, I've seen him get married, and on and on and on. And what I really respect about Vinay and the whole team is how much they apply this sacred in the secular. And that's why I use details like I've seen Vinay graduate through all of these programs, manage so many relationships. And all of the names I've mentioned as part of our team, they are all volunteers. They are professional, but they're all volunteers because you don't pay them anything. You don't pay anything for this training, which means they don't get paid for anything. And that's even greater, is knowing how professional they are, but they're treating this like their service. They're treating this as their bhakti towards Sanatana Dharma. Vinay is now going to share many, many, many awesome thoughts about our training. Please listen carefully, take lots of notes, and then if you have any questions, you can ask him or me or anyone who's part of our team, our facilitators. Vinay?
I am Vivekji. I am everyone. So wonderful to be with all of you tonight. Before we get into the details and structure of our program, which there will be a lot of those, we just wanted to get everyone sort of thinking and talking as well as we can in a Zoom meeting like this. So what we'd like you to do is just take 30 seconds and just think about, why do you want to work with youth? Why do you want to serve youth? And I'll put that in the chat. Why do you want to? Let me make it more specific. Why do you want to facilitate for you? So take 30 seconds or so, think deeply about it, because being here, you wouldn't be here if you didn't have that desire in some way. So why do you want to facilitate for you? And once you have your thoughts, please put them into the chat. Let's all see why we're all here in a little more specificity. So I'll give about 30 seconds, a minute for that. Really nice thoughts so far. Please keep putting them in. Youth is our future, providing them with support and compassion, lots of potential, making them confident human beings, service to further the cause of Sanatana Dharma. Absolutely. These are all lovely thoughts. I think all of us feel what everyone else is sharing. And that is really, as Vivekji was saying, that is really why we are putting forth this training. because the youth is so, so, so important, right? If we are serving them, we must be prepared. We cannot take this casually. And it is really with that in mind that we've constructed our program. So what I'll be sharing in the next 10 minutes or so, I'll be talking about the program structure, sort of very basic nuts and bolts of it. I'll talk in a fair amount of detail about the curriculum that we have designed. We're not pulling in any existing curriculum for this training, by the way. This is being custom built for this using our expertise. I'm a professional educator, Zui is a professional social worker, Vignesh is a medical doctor, and we have so much professional expertise on our team that we're pulling in to make this training really meaningful for you, but also for the youth that you're facilitating for. So after we go through the curriculum, hopefully you'll be hooked and you'll want to apply, and so then we'll talk about the application and things like that. So let me start by sharing my screen. Sorry, just give me one moment. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen, the Enhanced Seva training. Perfect. So this is our webpage. Team, if someone can put a link in the chat to our webpage. And this is really the one-stop shop for all the information the basic information that you could want about our program, right? So I'm going to skip over this beginning. Vivekji's already discussed that in a great amount of detail. Let's start with an overview of the program structure because that's actually the simplest part of this, the most straightforward part. Our program is a fully virtual program, meeting every Thursday from 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. That is a change. Those of you who might have applied a few weeks before, it was originally 6:45. For various reasons, we have moved it back 15 minutes to 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time, virtually over Zoom, every week, starting on June 30th is the orientation. I believe the first course session will be July 11th. So again, June 30th is the orientation. July 11th will be the first session. And from then on, from July 11th until I think through next June, every Thursday will be a session. And so that's the first pillar of this, is the virtual sessions happening every Thursday. Vivekji will be teaching. We have a lot of other experts coming in to teach on very important topics. The second pillar, which is just as important, when it comes to facilitating for youth, theory without practice is empty. So, in order to make the full use of this program, in order to be trained properly, we are asking that all applicants commit to teaching youth on a weekly basis for the 2024-2025 academic year. This could be in a spiritual context. Balavihar is probably the most common for everyone. But it's totally open to if you're homeschooling youth, right? Certainly there are things this training will be helpful for you. If you're teaching a language class in HNMI Mission Center, absolutely this training will help you connect with the youth better. And so again, those are our two pillars. We have the virtual sessions happening every Thursday morning, and then on your own, you will have to arrange for teaching youth weekly. And so moving to our curriculum, and again, this is going to be a lot of information. Please take notes. If you have any questions along the way, please make a note of them. We will have a lot of time at the end for questions. Going to our curriculum. So again, if we're meeting every week for pretty much an entire year, there has to be a very robust curriculum. And so our curriculum is organized into these 5 strands, which have been beautifully designed in this diagram of a tree. And so we'll sort of move from the top down. The first of these 5 strands is the philosophical foundations of teaching. What does it mean to be a teacher? What does it mean to be a teacher in a sacred context? How do we apply spiritual knowledge? How do we digest it in ways that we can then present it in a relatable manner? So really, the beginning of the course will focus a little more on this, right? What is this philosophical background that we need to then go forth and teach? As we move more from the summer into the fall, we'll really begin to unpack these two strands here, the teacher's toolbox and student-centered teaching. The teacher's toolbox is really what are the tools, frameworks, strategies that you need to go and teach effectively, excellently every week. So things like how do you public speak confidently? Things like how do you design dynamic activities for all age groups? How do you lesson plan in an organized manner? How do you, if you're being given a curriculum by Chinmay Mission Center and you're being told you need to teach this, how do you adapt that curriculum to meet the individual learners in front of you? So that's the teacher's toolbox strand. Weaving in with this strand, and all of our strands will really sort of weave in and out of each other, is the student-centered teaching strand. As Vivekji mentioned, teaching itself is important, but teaching youth is really what's important here. So who are these youth, right? What are these generational differences? How do you manage a classroom in a way that is positive and caring and empowering to create love for what they're learning? So really the fall will be heavily geared towards these two strands. The pedagogical techniques that you need to teach effectively, and the knowledge bases that you need to understand your students. As we move from really winter into 2025, we'll still probably be focused on the teacher's toolbox and student-centered teaching, but we'll begin weaving in some more broader, maybe high-level topics, which is engaging outside the classroom and evolution in teaching. In engaging outside the classroom, one of the first things that I ever learned from Vivekji way back when was that when you are when you are serving in any position, you are always that sevak, right? You can't behave one way, within 1 hour for once a week and then behave in a totally different way. So what does it mean to be a teacher, right? Not just in those 60 minutes that you might be teaching, but comprehensively outside of it. And along with that goes, what does it mean to be a mentor for your students? And this is Balavihar teachers, spiritual teachers, teachers of any age, any context, become mentors for their students. What does it mean to hold that responsibility? How do you engage in that responsibility to the best of your abilities? For those teaching in a Balavihar center, we'll also talk about topics such as how do you engage with parents to best promote student learning? How do you engage with the center at large to really leverage what the center has to offer to, again, best promote your students' learning? And again, for those who are maybe not in a Balavihar Chinmay Mission context, these will still be relatable. Teaching always happens within a macro context. And then our last strand will be evolution in teaching. Again, circling back to what Vivekji was saying earlier, we can't be complacent with teaching. This program is 1 year, but many of us will teach for years and years and years after this program. So it's so important then to think about how do you make sure that you're continuing to evolve as a teacher? How do you make sure that as your students change each and every year, that you're also growing with them? So together, we really feel that these 5 strands throughout 1 year of comprehensive training will really allow wherever you are in your teaching experience, whether you've been doing this for 10 years, whether you've been doing this for 0, whether this is your first year teaching, we really feel that this training will allow you to make the most of your teaching for yourself as a sadhaka, but more importantly, allow your teaching to be the best it can be for your students. And at the end of the day, that is what the goal is. And again, if you have any questions on this, please note this down. We'll have time soon for that. I know it's a lot of information. The last thing that I want to talk about, so we talked about the program structure, the curriculum, moving to the eligibility and selection. So, as we mentioned, if you're applying for this program, you are making a certain set of commitments. One of those is to, barring any emergency circumstances, be physically present for each and every session. And there's a rationale behind this. If this is a training program, if you are absent for a good amount of sessions, then you're not receiving the training. We are not being harsh for the sake of being harsh. We're taking this very seriously, and we hope that those of you who are applying will meet us with that seriousness. Again, as I had mentioned earlier, if you are applying for this program, you're committing to teach youth on a weekly basis for the upcoming academic year. Again, does not have to be in a Chinmaya mission context, although we know that that is probably going to be the most common context given our community. Another important criteria that I want to highlight is we are asking that you make a commitment, if you're applying for this program, that you make a commitment to attend a weekly Vedanta class with a trained Vedanta teacher. Trained Vedanta teacher means someone who has attended a 2-year or more Vedanta course formally. So a peer-to-peer adult study group will not count for this requirement. And again, the rationale here is that if we're teaching the sacred subject, we have to continue learning it deeply as students. The Vedanta class does not necessarily have to be through Chinmaya Mission Niagara Cleveland. It doesn't even have to necessarily be through Chinmaya Mission, but we will be asking for details with that. And that's our application. So team, if you can put the application link in the chat if you haven't already done that. Our timeline for this, our application is open now. You can see that it closes on June 15th. And we'll notify applicants of their acceptance or not by June 23rd, and then June 30th will be our orientation. So again, I know that's a lot of information, but please note down any questions you have. We talked about the program structure, right? Weekly Zoom meetings, teaching weekly. We talked about the curriculum. We talked about the eligibility and selection process. So we'll transition now to hearing from some of our Seeker to Facilitator alumni. I'll stop sharing my screen. So I'll transition to hearing from some of our awesome Seeker to Facilitator alumni. They, as Vikti said, they went through this rigorous training, and we hope that hearing from them will inspire you and give you a good taste of what is to come through the Enhanced Seva training program. So first we'll have Pankaj-ji speaking. Team, if we can spotlight Pankaj-ji. Awesome.
Hari Om. I wanted to share some profound learnings that have deepened my personal sadhana. This training has profoundly impacted my spiritual practice, helping me reflect more and place greater faith in Him. Understanding that I'm merely an instrument in His grand design has allowed me to shed my ego and also deepen my surrender. Training has helped me to do the right action with the right attitude. This shift from I'm doing to I'm an instrument has made my actions more aligned with my spiritual goals. Right actions naturally foster the right attitude. So surrendering to the divine will and accepting whatever comes my way has been transformative. This acceptance has actually reduced the stress and has enhanced my ability to approach situations with a positive mindset. With right action, with right attitude, and with more surrender, I feel lighter and happier. I've been able to share this joy in my Bal Vihar classes. Collaboration with the fellow seekers has enriched my learning experience. Working with Jui and Lavanya for the Pittsburgh Seva session taught me discipline and structure, enhancing my ability to serve better. So in summary, 2 hours which helped me deepen my sadhana are right action and right attitude. Embracing these principles makes us more cheerful and content. I hope these insights inspire you as they have inspired me throughout this course. Hari Om.
Thank you so much, Pankaj-ji. Next, our next Seeker to Facilitator alumni who will be speaking is Annapurna-ji.
Pranams to Vivekji and Hari Om to all the wonderful seekers. I just wanted to share a little bit about the connections I made with the fellow seekers in this program. So a few years ago, I took the Foundation Vedanta course through Chinmaya International Foundation, which was online. And the course content and the discourse from Swamiji were priceless, but I was pretty much on my own, taking notes and completing assignments. But enhanced Seva training is different. As the name says, it is training, so a lot more practical applications. And reflecting systematically is an integral part of the course and assignments, along with sharing our thoughts and discussing them. So our full class got an opportunity to share our thoughts on 2 chapters of Bhagavad Gita before Meaningful Mornings in December. We also had to offer concrete feedback on these very personal reflections and sadhana practices that everyone had shared. I was amazed by the authenticity and the vulnerability expressed. I felt so close to everyone at a very fundamental level, even though I have not met many of them in person. So now, being part of the Gurukula team, the cycle of Seva, sadhana is even more clear in this perpetual satsang. So I'm very grateful for the Guru Shishya Parampara and all these wonderful speakers who will inspire me every day. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you, Annapurnaji. And our last alumni that we'll hear from is Lavanya.
Hari Om Vivekji, EST team, and all. Grateful and happy to be with all of you tonight. I am a seeker based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. I was born in the US to 2, I would say, religiously orthodox immigrant parents. Because there was so much newness for my parents raising 2 Indian American kids, a lot of our engagement in Hindu religion and culture felt fear-driven. Fear of not losing out on religion, language, culture, due to us being so isolated and away from our motherland, India. I am not blaming my parents, as they did the best that they could, and I'm so grateful that I was brought into the Chinmaya family at such a young age because of their intense dedication to preserving the culture and values. However, I feel for this next generation, because we know better, and generally we have our basic needs more than met, we can do better in terms of moving away from fear and transactional relationships with our guides, scriptures, and God into a more loving and transformational relationship, as Vivekji just shared in Meaningful Mornings today. From being a part of Enhanced Seva training, I came to realize the most important aspect of facilitating for Bala Vihar and our up-and-coming youth is to cultivate safe, fun, relatable spaces where they are loved and accepted for exactly who they are, especially as our external environments become harsher and harsher. This long-term vision will help build a loving relationship with our religious practices and culture. For me personally, I was able to unlearn my fear and transaction-based relationship with our guide, scripture, God, and relearn a love and transformation-based relationship with my guide, scripture, and God. When I feel this in a personal and confident way, I can share the same. Hari Om.
Thank you so much, Lavanya. Thank you so much, Annapurnaji. And thank you so much, Pankajji, for those wonderful reflections. We'll now switch to our Q&A. Team, shall I begin by addressing some common questions that we've been getting from people throughout the... Yeah, okay. So we've been getting a few common questions, and we'll just begin by addressing those, and hopefully this will address anyone who has those questions as well. So the first question that we've been getting is, will this training be applicable for teachers of all age groups from pre-K to 12th grade? And the answer is yes. All of these concepts are about how do you be an excellent, effective, caring, compassionate teacher, and that is something that is a necessity, whether you're teaching pre-K, whether you're teaching 4th grade, whether you're teaching 8th grade, 12th grade. And so this will definitely be a good training for anyone teaching youth between those ages. An additional question we've been getting related to that is, will we be teaching how to use specific curriculum? For example, Many high school classes often teach Bhagavad Gita and Chinmaya Mission. Middle school classes will teach P.O. Box, Mr. God, right, and so on and so forth. And the answer is we will not be focusing on any one specific curriculum in that level of depth. Our focus is less on the what. That is why we're putting this requirement of attending a weekly Vedanta class. That is the education on the what. Our training is much more on the how. We will discuss how do you take an established curriculum and adapt it for your own personal classes, but we will not be going through, P.O. Box Mr. God, for example, page by page. That is not this training. Our next question is about the weekly teaching component. That we've been getting a lot of questions about this. And the most common question that we've been getting is, what constitutes the weekly teaching requirement? If you are teaching youth, ages pre-K through 12, anywhere in there, on a weekly basis, that is exactly what this requirement is. And so if that is you, if you're teaching Bala Vihar on a weekly basis, for example, absolutely, that is what this requirement is. Some cases that we've been getting questions about, let's say that you're an adult study group leader. At this time, we are holding that is significantly different than teaching youth. And so we would ask, if that is what you are applying with, that does not quite fall into this requirement. And we would ask that you message us if you have more questions. And also we would ask that you consider teaching youth between pre-K and 12. Other cases that we've been getting, if you're homeschooling children, teaching them secular education, absolutely apply. That falls within this. If you're teaching a language class, I might have mentioned this earlier. If you're teaching a language class, let's say you're teaching Hindi or Sanskrit or some other language at a Bala Vihar center, or even otherwise, if your students are between pre-K through 12th grade, absolutely that would fall within this. So really the goal is, if you are teaching youth, that is what this training is for. If you're facilitating for adults, that is so significantly different that this training, it won't quite overlap. That is a significantly different needs. Again, we welcome everyone to apply, but please reach out to us if you have any questions. And I think those are our common questions. Hopefully I answered people who might have had those. But now, team, I think the understanding is, raise your hand virtually if you have any questions. I'll also say, if you want to put your questions in the chat, maybe while people are speaking about the questions, our team members, we can also answer some questions in the chat, and that way we can cover more ground. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand virtually, and we'd love to talk. Yes, Vinita ji.
Hari Om. I had a question. You said the timings are going to be 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. Eastern time, right?
Yes.
So for us in the middle of Canada, it would be 3:30, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Now 3:30 would be pretty tough for some younger people to attend the sessions. Would it be possible for them to use like a recording, or would that not work?
Can Vivekji speak to this question? I think Vivekji has a better answer.
Yes, and noted the question, noted Vinay's response also. We really try to work hard and smart to be inclusive of all time zones, whether you're in Kenya or India, etc. What do we do? Think about it practically. Imagine you're me right now, or our team. What do we do to encourage people to attend live? Because I have found so many training programs, so many classes are based on recordings or cameras off. Now I think about when I'm listening to a recording or when my camera's off, I'm doing lots of other things. I'm folding clothes, I'm washing dishes, I'm going for a walk. So I'm not really training then. This is why we're adamant that you attend, and Vinay used the word emergency. We're adamant you attend every training with your camera on, your names written out in a live fashion. So as of now, that is our continuing decision and our process. And I know there's lots of people in MT and PT like yourself, but I do want to point out that Vasavi and Annapurna both were in the PT. They completed our 1 year of seeker to facilitator, and those classes were at 6 a.m., which means it was 3 a.m. for them. So they did it, and we do have the expectation that you will too. Right now, there's 75 seekers. We're only going to accept 54. So we want to apply that rigor to all, that if you're committed, that you will sacrifice towards this commitment too. And I'm sharing all of that respectfully. I know you, Vinita, and you know me. We're trying to be inclusive in a universal way. Okay? So, put very simply, no recordings will be shared with anyone. This will be a live experience.
Thank you.
Sudarshan, go ahead, and Vinay will continue to answer questions, unless I need to.
Hariam Victory, Hariam all. So I think I don't fulfill the teaching youth every week requirement, but I fulfill it in the closest possible way that I could. I teach college students every 3 to 4 weeks, and I'm a year away from teaching Balvihar for probably a good amount of time, if I have to say. As I have a year left of college, but it's probably not possible with my stage of life to teach for this coming year. I'm too far away from home to realistically do that. So I was wondering, like perhaps if I were teaching youth every week, this program would be really effective. And if I took it this year, it would be effective, but I would only apply most of it a year after, and I'd apply it in some sense this year. Though I do facilitate in other ways other than teaching right now, such as like writing, descriptions, and other things like that. So I was wondering how hard and fast is that requirement, and could it be useful for things other than strictly teaching? And yeah, there you go.
Yeah, great question, Sudarshan. Thank you. I think I'll answer your question sort of backwards first. Could it be useful? Absolutely. I think so. Having taught college, been a TA, absolutely. I would say apply and talk to us, email us, and we'll have a more detailed discussion. That's not just for you, Sudarshan. That's for anyone who has what I'm going to call one of these in-between cases. The rule, I think we are trying to keep it pretty tight, but please do have a conversation with us. And again, that's not just for you, Sudarshan. That's for anyone who really wants to do this, but is not sure if you quite fulfill that requirement. Sudarshan, does that make sense?
And I want to accentuate what Vinay shared. I see a lot of questions in the chat about different time zones, and you're not teaching in the center community because you don't resonate with the vision of that center community. Just apply. Just apply. Tell us what's going on with your circumstance, what's going on with you. And we obviously are a community and a training of significant discipline, but this is also insulated with compassion. So you apply, you share, and we will adapt accordingly. Okay, so any other questions that are coming in about specific circumstances, simply apply and let us know what's going on. Okay, Sudarshan, Sangeeta, Vidya, Lisa, so many people who are sharing in the chat about this. Okay? Keep asking. We have a few more minutes of questions. Apar?
Hariom Vikshi, Hariom everyone. My main question was around how this training develops facilitators to understand students with different personalities and particularly get feedback from them when they, I guess, like generally might be quieter or might not have a personality that resonates particularly with the specific teacher. That's a quality that I'm hoping to develop for youth culture this year, because it was hard to get feedback from some of the students over the last few weeks.
That is 100% the purpose of this training. That and so much more. In my experience, I was a professional high school biology teacher for many years. In my experience, that is one of the most important skills that a teacher can have in any context. And I'm thinking of our curriculum, which we've been developing sort of session by session, and we have sessions devoted to exactly that, to asking and answering questions, to developing relationship with your students, to understanding different personalities of students. So, Apar, I think apply. This sounds like a perfect fit. Yeah.
Any other questions from anyone? Generally, specifically, any questions or reflections from our facilitators, from our team? How many of you are nervous right now? By a show of hands. Sangeeta, Vijay Lakshmi, Swatantra. For those of you who attend Meaningful Mornings, Sri Krishna has been emphasizing, and I've been emphasizing even more, the need for tapa, which means just try. Just try in the form of an application, or for the upcoming year that you'll teach youth in your own home or a language or your community. Just try. Rupal, go ahead. You're muted, Rupal, so please unmute yourself, and after that, Prachi.
Sorry, Vivekji, I had raised my hand for being nervous and I forgot to take it down. But there's a question in the chat that I very much resonate with, and would like to see if we can answer that one from Varshaji.
Sure. Yes, I can. Or Vivekji. Okay.
No, Vinay, go ahead. I didn't catch it anyways. Go ahead.
Sure. So the question in the chat, if I can paraphrase it from Varshaji, is how many hours per week will this course take? On the face of it, 2 minimum, right? 1 hour on Thursday for the virtual session, and then 1 hour of weekly teaching in whatever context you're doing that in. I think when we factor in, there will be periodic reflection assignments, obviously the planning that one has to do for their own weekly teaching. Really, I think that will be the bulk of it. You won't be having to write essays each week. This is not that kind of course. I would say budget for maybe around 2 hours actively and maybe 2 hours more passively. And what I mean by that is really the bulk of those 2 hours would be thinking about your lessons and planning for those. And for some people that might be more time, for some people that might be less time. For us, from our end, we will have regular reflection assignments, but the focus is much more on quality as opposed to quantity of time with those. So I would say if I had to give a number, around 4 to 5 hours, but only 2 of those hours are sort of fixed in stone. The rest is variable depending on how much time you can put into this outside, if that makes sense.
Good, Vinay. Good answer. We're going to take Prachi's question, then Deepa and Geeta, and everyone else. If you have more questions, after we answer Prachi's question, I will share some thoughts. I will complete our open house with a prayer. If you have more questions, please stay. Vinay, Vignesh, Vidya, Zui, Annapurna, Anvita, they're all here. They all have a lot of experience. They'll keep answering your questions. Prachi, go ahead.
Hari Om, everyone. One of the challenges that I've faced when I'm teaching children at present is what Vivekji was highlighting about various generations. I may be belonging to Generation X and I'm skipping a generation by teaching children from Generation Z. and things that I connect with, they do not. And when I'm bringing the learnings from Vedanta, I'm personalizing it to my experiences and I'm trying to translate it to their experiences. There's a big disconnect. Does this program help us, help, the generation that is not yours and help connect with them?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. The answer is a absolutely yes. Um, that I don't know if you remember that third strand I spoke about, the student-centered teaching strand, is 100% about this, right? We have this sacred knowledge, right? We're teaching, but we're not quite able to connect to those we're teaching. The sessions in that strand are specifically about how do we bridge that gap? How do we see the world from their eyes so that we can make those connections? So absolutely, that will be a huge concept that we will be covering throughout this year. Great question.
Thank you, Vinay, and to our team, and to all of you. Again, sharing a few more thoughts, and then we'll complete our open house formally. Teaching is becoming harder. And Vinay, who's training to get his PhD in education, as well as being a seeker, would know that personally. And anyone really who's teaching Bolivar or a language or even their own kids. I also have 2 young kids who are 7 and 5. It is getting harder. And that's why enhanced Seva training is even more precious, even more powerful. You know this, which is why I'm encouraging you again and again and again to just apply. If he wants you to be in this training, you will. As I look around, I look to a seeker like Pankaj, and you got to hear from him. When I first met Pankaj, probably in 2014, he was a quieter person. But now he's tending to so much of organizational matters, helping with different Bolivar classes. And I think so much of that change has come from this training. I look to a seeker like Prema, who is from Houston. I believe Prema was born in Malaysia. And many of you have questions about differences in generation by age or culture or nationality. But Prema too has trained so much and is ready to accept further responsibilities with helping our Devis, her own children, coming on yatras. In my notes, what I've written down is, our facilitators have become more confident. If that is something that you want and need in your life, that you want and need to be a more confident person, I guarantee you, and that word is rarely used in sacred environments, but I guarantee you that this training will facilitate that. Once you become more confident, that means you're leading yourself, others will follow. Remember, I gave that example of being in a scenario that a confident person is there, and inevitably we follow. I've seen such changes both in our facilitators and team in terms of their confidence. And I'm not even describing my own personal transformation, which was done in a different immersion. For our facilitators and team, I've seen this. And I know those who are keen, those who are applying, a year from now, you will smile and wink at me saying, Vivekji, you are right. You can read our foreheads and we should pay you for palmistry. And so, apply. We are going to take 54 seekers who are going to engage in this enhanced Seva training. And I hope that these seekers will come from a broad demographic, from Alpharetta and from Seattle, for those who are teaching Hindi and those who are teaching Bharatanatyam and those who are of non-Indian origin and those who are maybe in Generation Z, who are also applying. Apply. This will help you to be accountable. Being accountable is like a catalyst to growing, which is the vision of self-development of Sanatana Dharma. again, I offer my appreciation, my authentic and deep appreciation to all of you. Anvita, who leads our training ambassadors team, she had emailed me, I think earlier this week, saying, there's only 17 people who have RSVP'd. And now there's like 80 people who are here. Now we have to say no to you when you apply. My authentic and deep appreciation to so many of you for joining us for this open house. And to our team, I'm going to state their names one more time so you're clear. They're professional, they're volunteers. Vinay, who's in Philadelphia. Vignesh, who's in Washington, D.C. Vidya, who's in Orange. Orange means Connecticut. Nobody knows where Orange is. Orange, Connecticut. And Zui, who's in Albany. Annapurna, who's in Seattle. And Anvita, who's in Milwaukee. My appreciation to all of them. And our guides, you will get to actively learn from Sumanji, who's in Rhode Island, and Shankarji, who's in Pennsylvania. So a lot of appreciation. Anyone who has more questions, please stay on, and our team will continue to answer your questions. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Be joy. I will see all of you on the first day of our training, which will be on June 30th, which is Pujaswami Tejomayananda's birthday. And please spread the word to your communities, to your centers, especially those who are working with and teaching high school students. Hari Om. Have a good night.